At the beginning of the 1930s, the world economy was experiencing the effects of the Great Depression, which had left a great number of the population without a job, shelter, and the capability for production, and the life savings were lost by the speculation in the banking system. In the United States, the birthplace of the Republic, the ties that were unifying the economic sectors were broken, causing a social division that was fueling the growing conflict of interests. The role of the state had been decimated to the extent that the future was decided by the greed of the oligarchy. The lack of political leadership had turned the legitimate claims of the people to anger, fear, and impotence.
This great nation will endure as it has endured.
President Franklin Roosevelt had to face this situation in 1933, which appeared to have had no exit. Starting with the reestablishment of a financial system which would serve the real economy and the general welfare, he was successful in turning a nation that was going through its worst crisis into the greatest industrial, economic, and scientific powerhouse that humanity has ever seen. This model of society based on sovereignty, justice, and the future was possible due to the financial system under the Glass-Steagall law. The first step toward launching an economic recovery was to purify the national financial system and to take the control of the economic policy away from the hand of the great financial powers. It was the state that had to take responsibility for the national financial system. For that, the government had to make a thorough intervention in the Federal Reserve and the central bank, who are in charge of regulating and supervising the totality of the banking system of the country. Under the direction of the Secretary of the Treasury, the Federal Reserve, transposed by the Glass-Steagall law, was in charge of administrating the reserves, supplying liquidity to the banks, and supervising the use of the capital. All this was done under a new mission: maintaining a financial system that would support and foment the development of the real economy. The objective was to form a new banking system, solid and just, free of corruption, in which everyone could participate in and benefit from the economic growth, and which would provide a major defense and sovereignty facing the international events. First, it was necessary to include and give room to all the financial entities that were previously regulated and had a role to play in the society. Including everyone and fomenting the growth would avoid diversifying uselessly the energy of the economy, and would allow the government to regulate all the institutions. Once all the banks in the system were defined, the regulations were set in motion. By virtue of a series of investigations launched before the creation of the law, the fundamental problems in the existing regulations were exposed. One of the principal flaws was that the financial speculation was taken as the core of the economy, and the money from the people and from the production was allowed to be spent in order to feed the casino economy. There was nothing that could prevent it. These past experiences had caused the society to reject the banks. But now, the economic recovery demanded that confidence be restored in the national banking system in order to generate the major cycles of investment and the credit available. Therefore, an agency was created, one of the most important ones under the Glass-Steagall law, namely the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. It was directed by the government, which took charge of securing the bank deposits against the eventualities. As a result, the people would not lose their savings again. This was the entity in charge of maintaining the function, uninterrupted by the banks across the nation, and of not allowing any sector of the society to lose its access and its ability to participate in the banking system. For example, if a bank was closing in one place, not only the agent would not lose the savings, but also a new bank would be organized to replace it, this time under the direction of the national government. On the other hand, it was obligatory for all the banks to be part of this corporation. Therefore, if they were not at the level of the standard of solvency and responsibility required by Glass-Steagall, then they would stay out of the system. These standards were fundamental to construct the other grand pillar in the banking system, the transparency. The total transparency of the financial operations by the banks had to be achieved, upon which numerous factors were supervised. Also, the transparency demanded that the regulations be extended not only to the banks, but also to all the subsidiaries and the branches of the corporations that were controlling the banks. The government then was not able to secure the deposits if the bank was using them for financial speculation as opposed to credit. Therefore, an unequivocal separation of the functions of the banks was realized. The definitive destruction of the Glass-Steagall law at the end of the 1990s unleashed a speculative whirlpool that culminated in 2008 and remains to this date. The separation of the functions of the banks was providing oxygen to the real economy and liberating it from the whim of the powerful speculators. With Glass-Steagall, the commercial banks, in other words, the ones managing the savings, loans, and the rest of the social functions, could not act as investment banks or insurance companies. No bank could support or secure the financial operations of the market as the emission of bonds. The money of the people does not get mixed with the bets. Moreover, no bank could be affiliated with a brokerage firm, and no director or official of a bank was allowed to be a director or official of another corporation, whether you are a commercial bank that works with the people and the real economy, or an investment bank that dedicates itself to risky operations. However, these two worlds cannot coexist in the same system. The investment banks, such as that of Wall Street, were not regulated in the same form as the commercial banks, but the investment banks were not participating in the financial circuit that feeds the real economy. In other words, they could bet, speculate, or do whatever they please, but the risk was theirs. There was no support by the government or the commercial banks. This by no means suggests that there be no investment. Quite the contrary. Economic reconstruction requires the participation of everyone. Glass-Steagall guaranteed a clear financial system in which everyone could invest and gain benefit with the growth of the real economy. It was not about closing banks, but about separating the solid investments, savings, and credits from the hand of those who intended to make money without producing or investing in anything real. The banks would be maintained and grown, together with the investment and the production of every real economy. This law, passed in 1933, months after the inauguration of President Franklin Roosevelt, became the great enemy of the economic system of looting that is dominating the majority of the world today. And their political intention is exactly to return to the system that favors the bankers and the giant corporations, the ones which have brought about the financial crisis that is whipping the world today. A series of laws have torn apart, piece by piece, the Glass-Steagall legislation, together with legislative measures to devastate the real economy and increase the power of the financial economy, which culminated in 1999, when President Clinton signed the repeal of the entire law. This destructive process started with the successive administrations of Paul Volcker and Alan Greenspan as directors of the Federal Reserve, with these supposed experts dedicated to the monetary manipulation to create the appearance of solvency, strength, and growth. The world economy was to go into a nosedive.